All right, today we are diving into a really powerful idea, a totally new playbook for how we see reality, and it's called surfing the system. The core argument? Well, it's that our most fundamental beliefs about success, about control, and even about how the world works, they might be the very things holding us back. So, yeah, let's get right into it. And this quote right here, this is what frames our entire journey today. Think about it. The most dangerous thing, it isn't what you don't know. It's what you think you know for sure that just isn't true. This idea is so key because it suggests that our biggest obstacle isn't ignorance. It's our own false certainty. Okay, so this is the central metaphor of the whole thing. Most of us, right, we're taught to drive our lives. Grab the wheel, make a 5-year plan, force every outcome. But what if reality isn't a highway? What if it's more like a giant, unpredictable ocean? In that world, the goal isn't control, it's balance. It's not about rigid plans, it's about adaptation. It's not about force, it's all about finding the flow. You don't drive a wave, you surf it. So here's the journey we're going on today. First, we'll unpack that idea of surfing, not driving. Then, we'll hit the 3 main pillars. First, shattering our illusions. Second, understanding our totally outdated Stone Age brains. And third, building something called the capability formula. And we're going to wrap it all up by completely redefining what it actually means to be successful. All right, first up, surfing, not driving. Let's really get into this whole illusion of control and why that driver mindset, our obsession with being in charge, is just a perfect recipe for burnout in the world we live in now. Which brings us to pillar 1, shattering illusions. Look, if you're going to learn to surf, you first have to unlearn a bunch of stuff. We've got to tear down these mental myths that are keeping us stuck on the shore. So let me just ask you this, straight up. Are you really in control of your life? I mean, really. Because society sells us this story, right? That grit and willpower are all that matter. Well, this playbook says, nope, that's just not how it works. This is what's called the illusion of agency. And look, it's not saying your effort doesn't matter. Of course it does. But that effort, it's being channeled by these huge forces you can't even see. I love this analogy. Think of a fish in a river. The fish feels like it's swimming wherever it wants, right? But the river's current is what's really deciding its path. At the end of the day, the system, the environment, that's what wins. Okay, next up is the illusion of truth, and this one is wild. We all just kind of assume our brains evolved to see reality perfectly, right? Like a clear window. But they didn't, not even close. Our brains evolved for one thing, survival. Get this, if a creature sees a stick but thinks it's a snake and runs away, it survives. The creature that stops to analyze if it's really a snake, well, it might get eaten. So fitness, making the choice that keeps you alive, beats seeing the truth accurately every single time. And the last big illusion we need to shatter is the trap of good and bad. We do this all the time. A project fails and we immediately label it bad. But that word bad, it's like a dead end. It just stops all curiosity. What if that bad failure was actually the best thing that could have happened? What if it opened a door to something amazing? The trick here is to ditch the judgment and start asking better questions like, does this fit what we're trying to do? And, okay, so what are the consequences? What happens next? Okay, on to pillar 2, our Stone Age brains. So why are we so full of these illusions? Well, the answer is pretty simple. We're working with some seriously outdated hardware up here. The big idea here is something called maladaptation. Think about it. Your brain evolved to handle, lions on the savannah and not having enough food. It's built for immediate physical threats. But now, we're in this space age world, where that same panic button gets pushed by a passive-aggressive email from your boss, or just scrolling through someone's perfect life on Instagram. It's a massive mismatch between our ancient wiring and our modern world. And this mismatch leads to a truly mind-blowing insight about how we make decisions. We love to think we're these logical, rational beings, right? Wrong. We are emotional beings who think, not the other way around. The feeling, that gut reaction, it fires first. We're talking milliseconds. And only after that does our conscious, logical brain jump in and desperately try to cook up a story to explain why we felt that way. Seriously, this changes everything, from how you lead a team to how you sell a product. Now, get a load of this. Multitasking isn't just unproductive, it's poison. And that's not an exaggeration. When you're constantly jumping between your email and Slack and that meeting and that text, you're putting your brain into a state of chronic, low-grade panic. It's that predator in the bushes mode. But that emergency state was only ever meant to last for a few minutes, not for 8 hours a day, every single day. The result? Your body is flooded with cortisol, you get chronic inflammation. It is a direct path to burnout, anxiety, and even serious disease. Okay, so we've torn down the illusions. We understand our brain's limitations. Now for the good stuff. Pillar 3, the capability formula. We've talked a lot about the problems, so let's get practical and build the solution, a whole new operating system for actually making things happen. And this new way of thinking starts by taking a huge swing at a word Silicon Valley is absolutely obsessed with: disruption. The playbook calls this adolescent thinking. I mean, any teenager can break stuff, right? Real lasting value doesn't come from fighting the system. It comes from integration. It's about fitting into the system, building partnerships, creating symbiosis. Disruption just burns a ton of energy. Integration, that compounds energy. It builds on itself.
So what does this new operating system actually look like? Well, here it is, the formula of capability. And the big shift here is realizing that a team's or a company's capability isn't about having one superstar genius. It's about the design of the system. You need 4 things. You need more connected nodes. That's just your people and teams. You multiply that by fast, clear communication. Then you multiply that by tight feedback loops so you can learn from your mistakes super fast. And you multiplied all of it by having simple rules, not complex bureaucracy, but elegant principles that let everyone adapt.
And this just completely changes the job description of a leader. Your job is not to be the hero, pushing everyone to work harder, to grind more. No, you are an architect. Your only job is to tune the system. You focus on improving the nodes, the communication, the feedback, and the rules. If you get that architecture right, success just happens. It emerges naturally from the system you've built. And that brings us to our final and maybe most profound part of this whole thing: the real measure of success. Because it raises a huge question, right? If we get all this right, if we build these amazing systems, what's the point? What are we even trying to achieve? What does winning actually look like?
Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. Forget the money, forget the status, the job titles, the big exit. According to this playbook, all of that stuff, it's just noise. They're just another set of illusions, shiny distractions from what really, truly matters.
So here it is. This is the new scorecard. The real, true measure of success is how much suffering you can reduce. And it's not some abstract thing. It starts with you. Can you reduce the suffering in yourself? The anxiety, the distraction? Then it expands. Can you reduce it for your family, for your team, make them feel safe? From there, can you build systems that reduce suffering in your society? And finally, the ultimate goal for all sentient beings. It's about these expanding circles of compassion. So, you see, this is the whole point. This is the ultimate purpose. All these tools we've been talking about, shattering illusions, understanding our messed up brain wiring, designing capable systems, they aren't just tricks to build a more profitable company or get a promotion. They are instruments for a much bigger, more compassionate, and way more meaningful goal: to reduce suffering at scale. And so that's where we have to leave it. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about learning a cool new mental model. It's a call to action. Once you start to see the world this way, once you see the systems, there's really only one question left to answer. And that question is for you. What suffering will you reduce?